Our protagonist considers himself a magnificent necromancer. He is the object of adoration of all creatures, talented, beautiful, and courteous. But is such a charming character about to come to an end and simply be burned at the stake? As the necromancer was tied to a wooden cross and prepared for burning, people shouted that he was a shameless corpse snatcher and bone robber. One of the men in the crowd shouted that this necromancer had stolen his ancestor's body for his own dirty deeds, and now he had a child not of his blood, and our hero realized that it was his own fault that his wife had cheated on him. Our hero didn't understand why he'd involved the necromancer in this story. He realized that now he would be finished. The brushwood under his feet had already been set on fire, and the white-haired man began to pray to God to save him. He prayed with tears in his eyes and said that if someone would save him, he would give everything he had, and suddenly he heard a voice in the sky. That voice said it would fulfill his plea and save him. Hundreds of ghostly hands began to reach out to our hero. They began to envelop him with their power, and then our hero realized that it is the one who will save him. The white-haired man saw a bright light and then began to sink into darkness. After a while he woke up lying on the ground with no one around him. When he opened his eyes he saw a beautiful starry sky in front of his eyes. He looked around and said that it was very beautiful. For a moment he thought that it was heaven. Did he really die? Our hero thought that since his life had sucked so much, he'd have a lot of fun in this life. The white-haired man threw off all his clothes to experience total freedom. He happily started to run, enjoying his new life. But suddenly something's caught his eye. He looked around and saw that it was a pretty bad place, and there were a lot of bones. Looking around he realized that it was instead more like hell. But then he thought that he didn't care about it. He was alone here anyway. He started to enjoy his freedom and didn't notice that there was a girl right behind him. But suddenly he felt her gaze on his back and looked around. When he looked in her direction he saw this beautiful lady with long white hair. She just stood there looking at him silently with a slight smile on her face. Our white-haired hero asked why she was staring at him and started to quickly dress. He asked her if she saved him. The girl asked if he was a necromancer. The man replied that he is. He is the greatest necromancer named Tai. He greeted the beauty and bowed his head before her, then asked her how she ended up in such a remote place. Then this girl told him that she was a system, her current form to facilitate communication with the human race. The system is responsible for the development of the village and urgently needs a necromancer. Then she said that he meets the requirements of the system, that's why he was moved here. Tai replied that he understood, but did she really save him just to help her with some work? The girl replied that it was true, and as payment she would make him a deity. Our hero was very much surprised. Would she really make him a real deity? Then the system said that it is. He will become an employee of a company, and as an advance payment she will give him 1% of energy. Based on his performance she will give him even more. If he accepts the terms he has to say he agrees. Tai grabbed her leg and hugged her, and said he would do anything. The system was angry that he grabbed her leg. It lifted up that 1% energy. And then she hit our hero in the face with a powerful force, so hard that he flew off. Tai that she hit him. He didn't even have a mother. But he thought about the fact that he didn't even have a mother. Then the system said the process was complete, and now he had energy. He looked at himself and thought, is this it? Is he a god now? After he said that, the system kicked him and told him to get to work, because he was now an employee of the company. He was unpleasant to endure such a mockery, for he was already a future god. But then he shook off the dust and asked where to begin. The system answered that the first thing he had to do was to create a human being. Then he smiled and said that of course he would, and he was ready to do it right now. He quickly grabbed the girl by the shoulders and passionately plowed her to the floor. After that he started ripping off her clothes, but the system asked what he was going to do. Tai, already ready to get to work, said he was ready to do the man of course. The system was lying on the ground. The same hero still wouldn't stop doing what he started. Suddenly the system began to shine brightly and our hero was confused. He didn't realize what was happening now. He saw the girl disappear before his eyes. In a matter of seconds the beautiful girl turned into a shapeless, ghostly creature. The system said she meant resurrection, not reproduction. Tai shouted that he understood and let her calm down. But then he asked her if she was talking about resurrection. He used to only control the dead, but now he can resurrect them? The system replied that of course he could do that. The energy would help him create the perfect living dead. Tai got very excited, raised his hands up in the air and shouted that this is wonderful. Finally his dreams are coming true. The system said it was about time to try out his powers. Tai immediately found one of the skeletons, and took the skull in his hand. He examined the skull for a few minutes, and then an idea occurred to him. He had already seen who he could create from this skeleton. He said that now he would make a beauty out of it. Tai put his hand on this skull and began to infuse a powerful force. And now it finally worked. The skeleton began to piece together, and it began to take on skin. A few moments later, a very pretty young girl was in front of our hero. Even the system was surprised by this turn of events. She thought that of course as far as necromancy is concerned he has amazing skills. But even still this man is a malfunctioning pervert. The system watched as he climbed up to kiss the newly created from bones girl. He kissed her, and then bragged to the system that he only created beauties. Then he snapped his fingers and began to infuse power into the other bones that were lying around. More and more beautiful girls were formed from these guests. The system said that this place would be the point where new people would appear. Soon a whole crowd of them would swarm in. So they need to start building. They need to assign roles to function in the society. Then it told him to build a hierarchy when he was done with the infrastructure and get ready to meet the new people. Tai didn't even listen to her. He said he was just lucky to be in this world. The system decided to take some action. It took off its clothes to transform itself. Tai saw a bright glow that he had seen before once. A huge maw started to open right in front of him. Our hero even got scared. The system just grabbed him with one of its hands and just swallowed him. The girls who just appeared were shocked by this turn of events. And then after a while the system just spit Tai out like he was some kind of cherry pit. He didn't seem to like it very much, and was lying on the floor almost unconscious. The system leaned over to him, and told him that from today he became the head of Shinzo village. Tai still didn't understand what was required of him. He didn't understand the intentions of this system, and why it would even want to create a settlement here. He still had to figure it all out. He just said he would start his work tomorrow and went straight to sleep. And the next day, some loud noises were heard in this gloomy place. It was the reanimated skeletons chopping down trees to build a new village. They were all brought back to life by Tai. He was looking at a list of things to do. The system gave him a map so he could see what everything would look like in the end. He thought about the fact that he had to build a hotel, a smithy, a tavern, a healing center and everything, but there seemed to be something missing. Then he remembered that what was missing was a brothel. Suddenly behind him appeared a system that had been missing for some time. She grabbed our hero by the shoulder and asked him what he just said, and Tai started to justify himself and said that there is not enough public transportation. People will need transportation. The system looked at him with her nonchalant look of horror. Then she asked him how the construction was going. Tai said it was going great. The foundation will be ready soon. He is also proud of his vision for the future of the village. But the system thought about the fact that he made a sewer next to the well. Isn't he afraid of the stench from the water? It realized that he shouldn't do that. If he let him continue with the village plan, there's no telling how it would turn out. After these thoughts, the system asked him how things were going with the resurrection, and if he had finished it. Tai didn't know how to tell it properly. He said that the technique of perfectly summoning undead had gotten more complicated. So he wasn't completely finishing resurrection, and they were just skeletons. The system thought about the fact that he was right. He only had 1% of the total power now, and applying perfect resurrection requires an incredible amount of effort. On top of that, you have to take into account the details of anatomy. It's not bad to resurrect 100 people in a couple days, but there are thousands more dead here. Then the system told him not to touch the construction for now and just continue with the resurrection. Tai scratched the back of his head and said that the system never told him how many it needed, but it was almost 6,000. His words really surprised the system. It asked him to repeat what he just said again. Tai said they should count it. He had resurrected 5,871 undead, including that he managed to resurrect 2,333 humans, which made beautiful girls. And he also started to revive elves, 1,314 elves in total, and 666 orcs. As it turned out, in these lands also introduces dwarves, goblins and demons, and that he managed to revive 520 dwarves, 999 goblins, 36 demons. And then he even managed to find 3 long-winged angels in these surroundings. He left them all in the cave and told them to wait there until he returned. Then Tai thought for a few seconds and said that he didn't seem to have forgotten anyone. And then he asked the system a question: why are there such a variety of races here? How did they get here in the first place? The system was shocked by this turn of events, because he had already resurrected so many creatures in such a short time. Tai asked the system why it didn't resurrect them. It had 1% energy, so the process was not very fast. And then he asked her to switch roles. Maybe he would just build a village, and she would resurrect people. The system put its hand on his shoulder, and told him that it doesn't belong in this dimension. Interference is impossible. Simply put, they spells not attacks the system can't use. Tai thought at that moment about how she could be so nonchalant about this. He asked the system why she was even here. When she tried to tell him something, he immediately changed the subject and yelled for everyone to work faster so he could become a deity. The system said she would continue building and he would continue resurrecting. The system turned around and wanted to leave to do its own thing, but our hero stopped it and said that the village was almost built. The system quickly turned around and looked at him dumbfounded. Did he just say that it was almost built? Tai replied that it was indeed, probably because of the cadavers she hadn't noticed. Then he said that soon people would be living here, so we need to get rid of this smell. He snapped his fingers immediately. From this action there was a huge hurricane that absorbed all the odor and other stench. Immediately after that, leaves began to blossom on the trees and the grass began to turn green. Now the place looked completely different. The sky was bright and green, and now you could clearly see the outline of this village. Our hero said it was gorgeous. The system thought that she had underestimated him. Tai as the head of the village is irreplaceable. Tai turned to her and said that he was very tired. He had lost a lot of energy. He almost died. She looked at him again with that same scared and mad look, and asked, "Really?" She started undressing again. Taking off her clothes, she let him know that she could eat him again now. Tai and quickly bounced off of her, and yelled that he had figured it out, and don't do it. The system thought about letting him live for now, and then said that those he resurrected have no memory or awareness, they can't fulfill their roles. What is he going to do about it? Tai and pulled out a map to show her his plan and then said it's not a problem. He knows where the nearest village is. He could reproduce the memory of the inhabitants. All he needs to do is copy the behavior of those villagers from the other village and with a little modification put that knowledge into the heads of the resurrected people. That way no one can tell the difference between the undead and the humans. The system said that even if it worked, their personalities wouldn't be formed. Tai replied that she shouldn't worry, an identity can be formed from dreams. After all, he can do anything because he's almost a future god. The system looked at him and thought that the fact that he is perfect at necromancy is an undeniable fact. Then Tai showed the system that he had already tested his method and let it evaluate it. He pointed his finger at one of the beautiful ladies. One of them was talking about how she owned an atelier, and her dream was to marry Tai. And then he pointed to another lady who talked about owning a tavern and her dream to marry Tai. And he's also a fool. And a third lady with a beautiful figure said she owned a grocery store and her dream was to have Tai in her bed. Then these girls approached our hero, but he told them not to worry, because he would help them realize their dreams. The system told him that he couldn't be quiet. Apparently he didn't get it the first time. Tai thought that yes, he is a sinner, but he promises to make it right and swears by all gods and feet. The system ran the same test on him, and Tai shouted that he was wrong. Who cares? And after a while the system watched the villagers talking to each other and offering their services to one another, talking and behaving like normal people. The system got dressed and just watched everything progress. She realized that she had overestimated him and needed to keep an eye on him. Tai, who had just been spit out, said that the system had no sense of humor at all. The system turned to him and said it was time for the next stage. He needed to get on with the hierarchy. Tai looked at it and started to get on his feet about how that might be difficult to deal with. The system started to explain to him that they would need a hierarchy in addition to the workers. Then she waved her hand and said that by gaining experience and completing different tasks they would all raise their living levels. The higher their level, the more combat abilities they would need. Tai watched as the system showed him the different levels and what they were called. It also told him that the monsters outside of Shinsho were also divided into ranks. The higher the level, the more experience defeating them brings. From level 90 onwards, there's the heavenly sphere, and Tai was currently level 90. Tai looked up the mountain and saw that the system indicated his level above his head. Then our hero was happy that he had such a high level. He clenched his fist and said that he was incredibly strong. And then he thought about something. If he was so strong, what was the system's level? He turned to the system and asked what level it was, probably lower than Ty's. The system fixing his hair said that she has 9,999 level. After these words, our hero was petrified. And how can he live knowing that now there are such monsters and one of these monsters is his employer? Then the system continued to talk and said that therefore it needs to assign roles. He needs to plan their actions and assign them according to their level. Ty started to wonder, is he really going to assign someone's roles? It looks like he is writing a story. The system answered him that that's right. It's a storyline he'll have to write. Ty scratched the back of his head and said he still doesn't understand anything. What is this storyline? The system told him that he needed a main branch of the story that would be subdivided into tasks. It would take all his life experience and imagination to get it right. Ty still didn't understand what was going on here. He said he hadn't even thought about it, and he needed time. The system told him to take his time and to think it over very carefully, because the responsibility was now on him. So they went to the village to see what was going on. When they entered the main gate, the system said that the place would be very busy soon. Ty replied that they would need more laborers, like cleaners. Otherwise there will be a lot of garbage everywhere. Ty thought for a few seconds and said that they need brute force. Then he grabbed one of the skulls and thought about the fact that he needed to resurrect just a couple of orcs. But then he stopped and thought about the fact that it wasn't a good idea. If it was going to be a man, women would probably like him. Ty couldn't let that happen. He just threw the skull on the ground and almost crushed it with his foot. Then looking around he saw the skeleton of a female orc and it certainly looked better. But it still wasn't good enough, because he didn't really want to be kissed by a green woman. Ty felt kind of doomed for a while. We just sat there and poked at the mountain of skulls with a stick. And after a while, the system asked him if he had found what he was looking for. Ty said he hadn't, but he had a much better idea than he had before. The following events take place in a town called Glenmorgan. There in a dark alleyway terrible things happened. A man with a knife threatened another man who was hiding his daughter behind him. The man who had clearly been beaten screamed that he had given them his bread. What more do they want? After these words, the man with the knife gave the man a powerful kick with his leg and knocked him to the ground. His little daughter was very worried and crying, trying to help her father up. The other bandit said that he didn't want the bread and he wanted the girl. He was pointing his finger at her, and the little girl was hiding behind her father's back. These words made the man angry and he shouted that it was his daughter. Then the two robbers said that they didn't care, they hadn't eaten meat for a long time. Then the man with the knife rushed at the man with the little girl, but he managed to grab the knife hand with his hand. A fight ensued. The father ordered his daughter to run away very quickly and as fast as possible. The little girl was shaking very much and turned to her father in tears. But then she turned around and started to run away. She was running and screaming loudly for someone to save her father. Suddenly that other short, ugly man grabbed the little girl by the hair. The father with tears in his eyes screamed for his daughter to save her life. At the same moment he watched as this bandit almost stuck his knife into his daughter. But suddenly a miracle happened, something that no one expected. Ty appeared right in front of the little girl. He grabbed the bandit's blade with his hand and protected the girl from the blow. After making sure that the girl was okay, he looked at the bandit. The bandit asked who he was. With an incredibly powerful swing of his arm, Ty hit the bandit with such force that he flew straight into the wall. But this blow was so powerful that he broke through several walls with his body. From this turn of events, the other bandit was shocked, and he fell to the ground and then tried to run away. Ty didn't think for long and immediately began to summon skeletons that began to appear from the ground. Then he pointed his finger at the robber's goods and ordered the skeletons to catch him. But not just catch him, they need to tear him into small pieces. The skeletons started chasing that bandit. Our hero turned to the man who had just been beaten and to Little Miss. He said he had a job with food, shelter, and magical aid. It's not a long way there, but they can take the whole family with them. And then our hero asked if the man would accept his offer. The man hugging his daughter asked our hero, who is he? Ty looked at the man and introduced himself, saying that his name is Ty and he is the head of the newcomer village. And now some time had passed. Ty thought that if he could find the workers it would be much easier for him. But as it turned out, they all had a lot of complaints. The blacksmith said that he had run out of iron and needed another man to help him. Someone said that the fields were not plowed and not sown, it was a waste. The woodcutter said that there were a lot of trees and he couldn't do the cutting himself. All these people wanted something. Ty didn't expect he would have to control them all. He tried to calm everyone down and said he would find a solution. People were outraged and started to disperse. not talking amongst themselves about the same words Tai said to them yesterday. Some were thinking about overthrowing him. Tai heard all this and thought about what he should do with them. He sighed heavily and thought about how good it was that they were finally over and separated. Suddenly she looked over and saw a little girl behind him watching him from behind a tree. Tai instantly appeared in front of her and asked her what she was doing here. He approached her so fast that she didn't have time to react and was very frightened. The girl began to stutter. Tai stroked her head to calm her down. When she finally calmed down a little, our hero said that they should go back too, because they were all tired. It was the same girl he saved in Glenmorgan. She agreed with him and told Tai to remember to rest too. These two brave men crossed Hengguan Mountain. The father's name is Chen Legio, and the daughter's name is Chen Qingning. Legio presented the alcohol he had made to Tai as a token of gratitude. Tai immediately felt that this taste is different from the low-grade ale in the tavern. Legio used ancestral knowledge. He makes wine from the fruits in the forest. The taste is amazing. Tai gladly handed him the tavern of this city under him. Of course, father and daughter were not the only ones. Tai took in over 100 casualties and distributed them according to skill. The village had expanded greatly. To think, there were only bones here before. While Tai was doing his business, a system approached him. She turned to him and said she saw that he had already solved the labor shortage. Tai said that he had solved it, but that he still had a lot to worry about, because the uprising was about to happen. The system told him to think carefully, because hiring them would be another responsibility. Tai was thinking that of course there are many nice women among the refugees. His harem is growing like on yeast. The system didn't like what he was always thinking and talking about girls. Suddenly she remembered that he was supposed to assign the wild animal habitat areas, and asked if he had finished that. Tai tensed up at that moment. He remembered that she had asked him to do it yesterday. It had completely slipped his mind. He knew he was in for that nasty punishment he didn't like so much. The thought of it made him shiver. He didn't want to be swallowed and spit out. The system looked at him very carefully and asked why he was silent. Did he fail? Tai was trying to think of something very quickly. He was telling her there were still a couple things left to finish. He quickly rushed into the woods and said that he was making it quick. In a few moments our hero was already in the forest. He watched as two powerful beasts were about to fight each other. He thought it looked very strange. He applied his recognition technique. This tiger with wings and a horn on its head was quite powerful. So how did it end up in this area? This white tiger roared loudly and rushed towards the wolf that was in front of him. He flew upward with his wings and was ready to tear his opponent to shreds. But his opponent was not an easy beast either. It was a ferocious wolf with dragon scales on its back. He reacted in time and sank his sharp fangs into the tiger's neck. Tai didn't expect such a turn of events. He watched that wolf destroy the mighty tiger. And then our hero applied his recognition technique to find out what kind of beast it was. It was an 80th level gray wolf. No wonder it easily defeated the winged tiger. How could a gray wolf of that level be in this area? We need to move it away. While Tai was thinking about it, the gray wolf smelled our hero and started walking towards him. And finally Tai felt the footsteps of the beast, which approached him very quietly. Suddenly the wolf jumped up and rushed at our hero, flashing his sharp teeth. Tai had time to react and put his hand in front of him and caught him by the paw. Then he turned the wolf on his back and began to scratch his belly. The wolf liked it very much, and he whimpered with pleasure. Tai thought how fluffy this wolf was. His power was no match for Tai's. Now all the animals would obey their alpha. And so some time passed. Tai gathered all the animals and explained to them who and where to go. Then when the meeting came to an end, he ordered everyone to follow the rules of the organization. They need to defend their positions, follow morals, morality, discipline. Then those who understood had to applaud. The animals let our hero know that they understood him, and then Tai told them all to go back to defend their level zone. Tai was a powerful man in this world. He was almost a god here, so he could communicate with the animals. Then he looked at the map and saw that all the zones were distributed and there was also a level 1 rat. Tai grabbed the rat to get a better look at it. The rat calmly waited for him to grab it. When he looked at it, he thought that its level wasn't even enough for a training beast. He held it in his hand and thought about what to do with this rat. Tai was a powerful necromancer, so he had a great idea. He grabbed the mouse and started to take it apart, and then put it back together again. He ended up with an unidentified level 4 rat that looked terrible. But our hero thought it looked great, and it would be much better. When he created this roof, he had no idea that the locals would call it the most disgusting roof in history. As evening came, Tai looked at his village and thought that it was almost ready. It was time to welcome the new residents that would be coming here. He looked up into the sky. But he didn't even realize it was all so global. The whole world is connected. The planet he was on was a whole other dimension. At the same time, there is a planet like Earth. That is also another dimension for him. This world is absolutely familiar to us, an ordinary urban jungle. This stone jungle is inhabited by ordinary people just like you and me. All of a sudden, all people started getting messages that there was a new game. People started going there. It was a real large-scale 6D VR holographic network 6D VR game called Necromancer. They needed to apply for the beta test and become a player today. One of these average people was sitting in his VR goggles and was about to do something. He made sure no one was home and turned on some interesting content on his big monitor. On the screen appeared hot girl who licked her finger, obviously not for hygienic purposes. This guy grabbed some napkins and got ready to do the dirty deeds. And the woman on screen began to slowly remove her clothes. It was certainly an exciting moment that excites every man. This guy pulled out a napkin and waited for the moment when this lady will show him something interesting. Suddenly, at the most interesting moment, his screen froze and some kind of download started. This guy was sitting in a stupor and didn't understand what was going on. It had never happened before. Suddenly an advertisement for a large-scale holographic network game popped up on his screen. He was presented with a beta test that was available to the first 50 players. This ad blew him away. He immediately started to close this ad, but it wouldn't close for some reason. Instead of disappearing, the ad started to grow even larger. The guy got angry and snapped himself a VR helmet why it wouldn't close. He decided it would be better to apply an ad blocker and install it. So finally, after a while, he waited for the download to run and the blocker was installed. The guy was already happy that the ads were gone and everything was fine, which is great. His joy was short-lived. The ads immediately popped up on the main screen. Then this guy got even more angry and hit his monitor with his hand. Here came some time and he subdued his battered monitor a bit. Finally, he undressed the ads and decided to return to his maid. Only he tried to open those very materials, he received a notification that the viewed videos contain inhumane scenes and other prohibited footage, and therefore the content is removed. Failing again, Well thought about how lousy this was and took off his VR goggles. Now he started thinking about that game he just saw in the commercial. It kept him on his toes and he was thinking that if it was going to suck, it better not shine. The following events take place in a big and famous company. One of the employees of this company was talking about how all the major websites had been hit by the Necromancer virus attack. Now they were doing their best to find the culprit. That she was telling the executive director of Googie Network. The director's name was Hwang Hee. He was thinking about how their ads are unbelievable, and they can't block it. A holographic game. Is this the kind of technology that can be realized? He looked at this advertisement and thought about it. Given their scale, tacking on 50 players, it's just a gimmick. Their marketers are top-notch. Suddenly this director got a call from his son named Hwan Kwan, and asked why he was calling at this hour. The son told him that his father had a problem in the local system. Then his father put the phone on the table. He ordered his employee to start a plan called a blackout. The employee pulled out a flash drive labeled blackout. She asked the principal, "Is this really necessary?" The man thoughtfully said that he would take full responsibility. At the same time, his son heard the phone ringing, meaning that his father had hung up. And at the same time, the other guy saw a chargeback on his screen. While I was counting down, he was inserting a flash drive into his computer system. And then there was a worldwide blackout. People didn't understand why the internet was down. What happened? This blonde-haired boy was thinking about what he was thankful to his father. He was looking at the fact that the registration was done. At the same time in the late afternoon, some country events were happening not only with the internet. Men in black clothes grabbed the girl and quickly put her to sleep. These thugs were kidnapping this girl and were ready to hide her in their car. But all this was seen by a guy who was just passing by. He was very surprised. It was a brave guy named Shurge. He was a talent of Wushu family. He asked, "What are they doing?" Those guys said another one came into their hands just in time. One of them told the guy to lick the car himself, or they'd help him. Naturally, the guy was confused and did not know what to do in such a situation. These robbers attacked him. One of them very quickly approached the guy and was ready to give him a blow. In a moment, the fist of this bandit almost touched the young man's face. The bandit did not expect that. This guy is not easy. He is skilled in martial arts. The young guy quickly intercepted the outlaw's arm and then threw him over his shoulder. The other bandit behind was surprised by this turn of events, and started walking towards the guy. He approached him very quickly and already wanted to hit him in the back of the head with his fist. The blonde-haired guy managed to dodge the blow, and quickly turned around. Then he quickly used a SWAT move and grabbed the bandit by the head, putting his knee under his legs and then pushing on his head to knock him down. Now that he had the two men down on the ground, he thought of the girl, and what she needed to save. He went to the car, but there was another masked man waiting for him. Suddenly this man clutched something in his hand, and quickly approached the guy. As the guy was approaching the car, he quickly jumped out from behind the corner, and rushed at him. Then he slammed into him with his whole body, and the young man felt a lot of pain, but still he managed to push his attacker aside. When he saw what had happened to him, he was shocked. He certainly didn't expect what had happened today. He saw the knife sticking out of his stomach. He felt incredible pain and blood spreading over his t-shirt. Blood started to drip from his body. The guy was shocked, but he started to lose a lot of blood. Because of this, the young man started to lose consciousness, thinking that he would soon die because of the loss of blood. But suddenly he saw our hero in front of him. Tai smiled and said that he finally found him. The wounded guy shaking hand pointed to the car and asked for this man to save her. Tai immediately went to the car to inspect what had happened there, and who needed to be rescued. He easily picked up the car and started to shake it. The sleeping girl fell out of the car. The people in the car were incredibly scared. They didn't have time to move away. Tai grabbed the girl and threw the car aside. The car fell with such force that there was an explosion. The injured guy was watching the whole thing and couldn't believe it was happening. He realized he was hurt, and the blood in his body was getting less and less. He was hallucinating. But when he opened his eyes again, Tai told him to calm down. She was fine and asked if this guy could get up. There was nothing to be done. Only his soul would have to be taken away. He was very tired but felt suddenly a very strange feeling. Could it be the ministers for the breast world want to meet him? He felt warm and finally opened his eyes. Is he still alive? When he looked around, he noticed a cozy room with a fireplace. Could this be the underworld? Looking at his body, the young man saw some tumors on his chest, and also a very strange feeling down there, as if there was nothing in the way. Only now he realized that he was a girl. Tears came to his eyes and he didn't understand where his device had gone. Tai came up to him and said that this guy was too noisy, but I guess he did it. And now the guy, who was no longer a guy but a girl, asked our hero who he was. Tai answered that he was the head of Shinzo village and called his name. The now white-haired girl asked what this place was. Is this really the place where new players gather? Tai replied that it was. He didn't even have to explain. He greeted Shurgu and said welcome to Nesser. Some time had passed since then. Now Tai and Shurgu were having a cordial conversation in the martial arts palace. They were discussing how to reach an understanding in Nesser. Shurgu was surprised that they had realized what was in the Sword Masters. Tai was saying that of course they did. Tai said that as soon as the new people get here, the martial and magic system is formed. Or as they call them on Earth, warriors and mages. He said this for a reason. Shurgu will be in charge of the martial hierarchy. Shurgu replied that Tai could easily teach himself. It was incredible the time he lifted the car with one hand. Tai replied that he just has a high level of martial ability, and is no match for Shurgu. Tai said he studied dark culture, and you people on Earth are very common, but wushu, he has seen many people do it. Shurgu said that wars are also categorized by region, archers, swordsmen, there are many different ones. Tai in turn replied that it's the second point in the hierarchy. Once they become stronger, they move to the next step. After meeting the requirements of the system, they choose their own specialization, swords, crossbows, and so on. Shurgu replied that Tai should leave it to her. She knows all kinds of weapons. She is also very interested in the magic system. And can she meet a mage? Tai thought about it, and said that they don't have a magic system temporarily. Shurgu looked at our hero in bewilderment and thought, is this really how they do things? Then our hero remembered that he had something for Shurgu. He took out of his pocket a few small vials. The girl asked in surprise, are these really the potions? Tai said that they were. He had a couple of medicines to cure people. But it was not his position to sell medicines, much less find a vendor to sell them out of hand. It was very confusing. Tai suggested to the girl that she sell these medicines on her own behalf. Now that she was already a martial arts master, she would probably be injured in training. Shurgu said that she will try to be easy, but she has questions. If someone wants to steal the medicine, then what should she do? Tai replied that he charges for the training and potion at once. Even if someone wants to steal them, they won't take much. Every day they have to count the medicine and the proceeds. If it doesn't add up, they have to figure out the thief and then give him dyed water under the guise of enhanced potion for double the price. The girl looked at our hero and said that's cheating. Tai replied that there's no such thing. Punishing a thief is a holy thing. That's fine. He left it up to Shurgu. He thought that being a good manager means delegating responsibilities and time. Shurgu said she agreed with him. But what is the name of the medicine? Tai replied that its name is deeply memorable and reflects the connection with him. He then told the girl to name it Flavored Shur. Then Shurgu said he had one last question. Why when Tai saved him his gender changed? Tai replied that it was his innocent whim and laughed at the guy who I was now a girl. He said he wants to build himself a harem here and he will help him. Shurgu was very upset by such words and she started to get angry. The girl grabbed the spear that was standing next to her, and her eyes lit up. Then she aimed this spear straight at our hero to attack him. She used the chrysanthemum blossom technique, the star dragon's dissecting power, and thrust this spear straight at Tai. Our hero didn't expect this turn of events, and thus didn't have time to react. Shurgu was already not happy to be saved by a pervert. At the same time, the system was in her room and was working on the arrangement of this world. She heard a loud noise and suddenly our hero suddenly burst into her room. He flew there like a hurricane, and hit his head on the floor. The system looked at him calmly and asked him why he came here. Tai greeted the system and said he came through here for nothing. There was a little tampering with the head of my art. He's even pretty good. When the system said it was great that he came here, she had just the thing for him. 50 human data came in for today. We need to create vessels for them. Tai looked carefully at the bright sphere that was near the system and asked what it was. He looked closely and saw one of those who wanted to move to this world. It was Huang Quan. He is of the marine sex. The desired sex in this world is female. The desired appearance is attractive. Tai didn't understand why this guy wants to choose a female gender. Is he a pervert? The system said it was a dimension management system. It would help him in his work. In addition, he would need to manage the forum. How would an ordinary medieval necromancer know what a forum was? The system looked at him with a menacing look and said that it had already told him to learn Earth culture. Was he too lazy to do that? Tai put his hand up trying to calm the system down, and said he had learned everything. The system asked what had he learned? Tai replied that he had learned a lot. There are characters like Lana Rhodes, Riley Reid, Mia Khalifa and many more. The system looked at him with disdain and said who else has he learned besides them? Tai replied that there are many more. On Earth there are famous titles like Master of Swords Online, Blade-Splitting Demons, Magnificent Taste. The system told him to shut up. It will explain to him how to use the forum. He needs to touch his finger to this system. Tai gently touched his finger to the spherical system. A lot of messages immediately popped up there. Someone wrote that he was a hacker but couldn't hack Nesser, who you said it was a very bad game when you said there for the whole internet. Our hero has admin rules. He can delete, add new entries or ban whoever he wants. Tai looked carefully at these comments. There were a lot of them. Someone wrote that nothing works for him and where is the optimization? How many comments? Tai started to figure out how it all works. It seems like there are some letters that if you click on them, it's like writing with a pen. He immediately wrote his first message. It was that all girls with size 3 breasts can register out of turn. They just need to write to him. The system smacked our hero upside the head and told him to stop having fun, get to work and don't waste time on nonsense. Tai replied that he understood and was on his way to get to work. Everything would be ready soon. Finally he came to his main task. He approached the mountain of skeletons. There was a lot of work to do, but still it was a job he liked. He liked to resurrect beauties for him every day. He looked at the list of those who wanted to come to this world. People left there some criteria that they would like to acquire in this world. Tai would naturally fulfill their requests, and create them as they wished to be. As he approached one of the skeletons, he used his power to resurrect the dead man. In a few moments, this skinny skeleton turned into a pretty girl. Our hero admired himself. He thought he was an incredible talent. The system was watching him. It raised its hand and there was an inscription that there was 1 day left until the beta mode testing was closed. Tai continued to go about his business. He was choosing the next person he was going to transfer to this world. And now he looked at one applicant. His name was Wang Zhu. He was a girl. The desired gender in this world is also female. The desired appearance is that hair color is multicolored black, and the skin should be glowing white. another person of marine gender named Lu Guanyu. He preferred to remain male. His desired appearance is to look majestic. Tai didn't understand what is this about. How can you create a variegated color on black hair color? And what does it mean to look majestic? Yes, how is this even possible? And then he started to look at other people. He realized that he had to calm down, and there must be normal people. And so he found someone else. It was a male person named Hichi Shui. The desired gender is also male. The desired appearance is devil-kissed. Our hero got even more angry. It was already too much, and he smashed the system with his fist. And after some time, here comes a meme insert from SpongeBob SquarePants where it says 200 years later. Actually, it could be less. And so the village was being built and developed. Everyone was doing their duty. Suddenly the villagers saw that the sky darkened, and looked up and saw something unusual there. At the same time, Tai was lying on the ground and thinking that now he understood why Earthlings hate customers. The stupid demands of customers. And he also remembered that today was the day of the gathering of people and he had to distribute. At the same time, Qing Ning was approaching him. She was running towards him and shouting about something. On the way to our hero, she shouted that there was a disaster. At the same time, a huge dragon was destroying the village. It was the Bronze Nightmare, an incredibly ferocious dragon. He came here to destroy the village and wipe out all the people. Panic formed in the village. The huge, ferocious dragon used its fiery breath to sizzle houses and everything in sight. Very quickly the head of the village arrived and ordered the dragon to stop doing this. But the dragon didn't stop searing everything around them. The people saw that their leader had come to them, and were already happy that he would save them. Tai got as close as possible to the Bronze Nightmare, and told him that he apparently didn't know about the rules of decorum. Then his eyes turned red. I told you that the dragon must remember that before a strong opponent he must bow. And immediately with a powerful kick of his foot he hit the dragon on the head, and the dragon's head hit the ground. It was a blow so powerful that it created an air wave. Then our hero grabbed the dragon by its horn and ordered the dragon to leave. Tai told the dragon to listen to his self-preservation instincts, and get out of here as soon as possible. But the dragon only got angry and Tai first came back and started to move away from the dragon hoping for his discretion, but the dragon decided to sizzle him with his breath. Tai had time to react and saw the dragon attack, then with a powerful leg kick he hit him in the jaws. That kick was so powerful that the dragon flew many meters into the sky. Tai thought about Nesser being launched officially. He decided to ask the new inhabitants to enter this world before 12 o'clock. Otherwise they would give their consent to voluntarily give up. That he said they were waiting for them and wished them a pleasant journey to the new planet. Systems said everything is filmed and ready. They did a good job. Tai was very tired. He thought about how hard it was to film. The system sent the footage back to Earth, and now it was up to him to wait for the new inhabitants. Tai had been waiting for this day and had already assigned tasks. Now those he had already resurrected would help the new residents as much as possible, and give them some tasks to help them get used to the place. The system said that it was great, and he became more far-sighted and she felt more comfortable to trust our hero. Now she didn't worry about the future of the village. Tai thought about the fact that when he saw a glorious dragon slayer, the beauties would immediately go before him. People wrote that this is a beautiful dragon and he is unimaginable. Someone wrote that this dragon is too realistic. If such a thing could be created on a computer. People wrote that this dragon breaks the horror, feels the power and majesty. Then they noticed a new hero. This hero easily stomped him into the ground. Isn't that cool? This new hero attracted them very much, because he killed the dragon with one hit. It's incredible. The beta test has officially started and it asks new members to log in before 12 p.m. otherwise they agree to voluntarily withdraw. Really liked this character, and they fell in love with him. Tai was petrified when watching this clip. He didn't realize what was going on. He pointed his finger at this person and asked who is this person. The system said it's his alter ego. He's called Limitless. At the pre-release screening she can't let some ordinary head with a mediocre face stand in as the hero who slayed the dragon. From her database, the hero should be with white skin, red eyes, blonde hair, wearing a black cloak, and also he will attract girls and become the ideal for guys. Her words hurt our hero a lot. He should forgive her, but he really looks pretty mediocre. Her words very much hurt the ego of our hero. He was very hurt to hear these words that he looks mediocre. It was a very strong damage. A man came up to Tai and asked if the head had seen his daughter. She went to look for him and didn't come back. Tai replied that he should not worry. Now she is on a very important mission for the new residents to test their honesty. At the same time, a little girl was sitting in a tree, a very tall tree, and called for help. She was crying, and down there were a lot of scary animals that wanted to eat her. She screamed that the head is a liar, because he told her pants will go to play, and he threw her into the tree. She will never believe him again. Then this girl's father thought that since the head says everything is fine, then he should calm down. But for some reason the father's heart was very calm. Tai smiled and said for the father to be completely calm. She is completely safe. At the same time, on the ground in Huan Quan's room, some things were happening. The beta test had officially launched, and he was one of the first who wanted to enter this game. But he didn't really understand what he was facing. He was thinking pre-release is not bad, now we need to see how it really is. This guy started to enter his login and password. It all looked really like a normal game, but he didn't even realize that it was a direct path to another planet. And then he logged into the game, and after a while he got a message saying welcome to Nesser. And finally this guy started waking up in a completely different world. When he opened his eyes he realized that it was very bright. Looks like this is the same Shinsho village. Looks like he's already in a new world. First he looked at his hands, and then he saw his new breasts. It really surprised him, and it was all very realistic. So realistic as if everything that was happening here was real. Since it was real, there was nothing wrong with it. He decided to just enjoy what's going on here, and also this body is a work of art. Suddenly someone grabbed his shoulder and greeted this beauty. Then the guy in the guise of a girl looked at the one who approached him, then he merely smiled. It was a vanguard knight. He was a new resident of this village just like this guy in the guise of a girl. The white-haired girl said in a rough voice, almost a bass voice, that his name was Huan Quan. Naturally, that person did not expect such a turn of events, and thought could it really be a guy. And then someone else turned to him and asked if this is the same arrogant heavenly Huan Quan from the forum. Another guy also in the guise of a girl said hello to him. And then the new people of this village started to get acquainted with each other. They didn't realize what they had gotten themselves into. But as it turned out, these people already knew each other. They somehow met on the internet. And so they got together and began to communicate with each other, sorting out what they should do next. Suddenly they heard a sound coming from somewhere in the woods. They have now reached noon. All 50 new people are gathered together. Juan said that he can only see 4 people. Where are the others? The tall guy said that he was a bit visibly blocking the view. After he stepped back, there were indeed a lot of new people visible. They had to go through some tasks to figure out who was who. Someone needed to rescue the daughter of the owner Tavernea because she had not returned from the forest yet, and her father was very worried. This was their first task. The brave warriors needed to find the girl and bring her back to her father's house. All this was prompted to them by the system. Suddenly our new members of this world saw footprints on Earth. They decided to rescue her, and they just formed a new team to deal with these matters. Meanwhile, on the other side were other people. They thought it was very cool. They would feel great in this world, and they couldn't wait to see the village. But the system gave them a warning that people must first complete a task before going to the village. But some people decided not to listen. They decided that they could go wherever they wanted here and no one would stop them. So they went straight to the village. At the same time, Tai was thinking that people are as usual in their repertoire. Their behavior is very bad. They were asked to save the girl in the forest. So why are they going to the village? The system said that if people always did what they were told, there would be no war in the world. Tai thought about the fact that they had made their choice. It was time to take responsibility for it. These new people felt a strong earthquake under their feet. The ground under their feet began to crack. They didn't realize what was happening. Some scary claws started to appear from under the ground. Someone had broken free. People were frightened, but they thought it was just a mouse. Well, what was their surprise when a huge scary creature crawled out? It was the same rat that our hero had created with his necromancy. This will crawled out of the ground and began to devour the naughty people. Everything turned off incredibly realistic. They felt real fear and tried to escape. Someone had his head bitten off by this huge rat. Other participants were scared and tried to save their lives. Some of them realized it was too late, and to save me, these rats surrounded them. They begged them not to come near them, but the huge rats were unstoppable. Now all these people were brutally destroyed for their ignorance. Now there are only 44 new people left in this world. These people have already experienced what is incredibly dangerous in this world. Suddenly the guide to the girl's audience stopped and ordered everyone to stop. They heard some sound. The guy told them to ignore them. At the same time, huge rats were approaching them. They have a serious problem, and finally these rats smelled the new people. They froze, and the rat also looked at them without moving for a while. The guys were very scared and thought they were finished. Suddenly someone shouted for them to get out of the way, and a girl appeared and rushed at the rat. She kicked the rat in the jaw to drive it away. The blow was so strong that the rat lost consciousness and just died on the spot. This girl was happy that she managed to destroy this rat with one blow. The white-haired guy said that if his guess was correct, then they had some powers in this world. Then he struck a huge stone nearby with his hand and the stone shattered. Now he realized that in this world his strength was gradually increasing, and in his normal life he would never be able to break the stone. They thought about that. Looking at this girl, it would be hard to tell that she was that powerful. When they thought that they had absolutely nothing to fear and decided to rush into battle against these huge ferocious rats. Tai thought they were pretty good. He already thought he was going to watch these goons try to escape from the rats. But as it turned out, these guys did pretty well against these monsters. They had managed to destroy the enemies and they could go on their way. The Necromancer was talking about the fact that the people turned out to be able to work as a team, and he was satisfied. After a while of searching, the group of people noticed that the tracks had disappeared. Finally, from somewhere above, they heard the call of a little girl asking for help. When they looked up, they saw the same little girl who was stuck in an incredible huge tree. No one understood how she could get up there. It was so high. She was holding a book in her hand and crying loudly, begging to be taken down. The girl was thinking that the village chief was a real scoundrel and a liar. The tall guy looked at the girl stuck in the tree and didn't understand how she could climb so high. Is she some kind of mountain climber, or what's wrong with her? People were looking at her and thinking that they couldn't have done it. But suddenly some monk came in and told them to let him handle it. The guys decided to give him a chance and see how he would handle the task. Immediately he got ready to quickly climb that tree. With a powerful push of his legs he jumped very high. This jump was incredibly high. After that, he thrust his arms straight into the tree mountain like a cat. And then, like some incredibly powerful beast, he started climbing up the trunk of this tree. Tai looked at everything that was going on and was surprised at this turn of events. Could this man really be able to sink his fingers into the trunk of a tree? On the ground, are Shaolin monks really capable of such a thing? While one group of people were supporting the monk who had saved the girl, the others were talking animatedly. Tai listened to them talk, and they were saying that there must be hot springs in this village. We should go there and see. Tai thought that this is a nice girl in trouble and they don't care about her. Sometimes people are too indifferent. After a while, that monk finally got to her and asked if she was okay. He held out his hand and told her not to be afraid because he would save her. He offered to help her. But the girl was still sitting there, holding her book in her hands with fear. And then after a few minutes she finally agreed and held out her hand to this monk. He grabbed her with one hand and told her that she was smart, and they could go down. She just needed to hold on tight. He then let go of the tree trunk and started to fall down. This was part of his plan, and he jumped from branch to branch like a monkey. After a while he got very tired and felt that he was having a hard time holding the girl. The guys downstairs noticed that he's too weak while the forest is up. They should help him. After all, their strength has increased noticeably. Yes, but they still have a limit. The tree is very tall, which means it took a lot of strength. Suddenly the branch under this monk's feet began to break. He felt that just a little more, and he would fall down. Finally the branch could not bear the weight of his body and that little girl, and it broke. As he fell, he managed to sink his fingers with a dead grip into the trunk of the tree. The branch that snapped from there fell to the ground with a loud rustle. The guys who were watching all this were very worried about the guys up above. They asked the monk to hold on tight, and they would find a way to help him now. The monk was almost weakened and he realized that they were going to crash. It was too bad. He had wasted too much energy, and he was going to fall. He held the girl in his arms and reassured her, telling her not to be afraid. He wouldn't let her hurt herself. Then he held her tightly to his chest and let go of the tree trunk, starting to fall backwards. The guys who saw this were scared, but they didn't know what they could do to help him. The blonde guy got ready to catch them both, and he succeeded. He grabbed the monk right as he was falling and stopped him from hitting the ground. The girl and the monk were rescued, both of them alive. She was very surprised and thankful for his rescue. Tai was scared for the lives of these people because everything happened very fast and unexpectedly. But still he didn't have to intervene to save the girl. With a part of that guy reacted quickly, because if they had waited a little longer he would have had to intervene. Quickly other people ran up to them and asked if the monk and the girl were all right. Finally the monk put the girl on the ground and told her not to worry. Thanks to Vanguard's account they weren't hurt. A green-eyed girl approached the little girl and asked how she was feeling and offered to take her back to the village. The little girl, who had been sitting in that tree for quite some time, thanked her saviors. And now they were on their way to the village. But suddenly something happened that they did not expect. Huge birds started heading in their direction. Red feathers began to fall down from the sky. People did not understand what the problem was. Shouted that it was trouble. They had found her. They need to run. She now has the treasure of the Mountain King. The girls said that they should run away as soon as possible because these monsters had come for her. As it turned out, they were not only huge and terrible birds, but also many other animals. All these ferocious animals rushed at people who just came to this world and have not even mastered yet. The guys were very much afraid. They did not expect that they would have to face this on the first day. But for all this, as usual, watched our hero. He thought it was great. He decided to add some spice to the plot of this story, and lo and behold, the crazy birds pounced on the boys from one side. They realized there were too many of them, and they might not be strong enough to fight them. On the other side, a huge scary tiger with a horn on its head was coming towards them. There was no way back, and there was no way forward either. From above they would be attacked by birds, and from below on the ground they could be eaten by huge creatures. But still they had to act quickly. The girl with green eyes grabbed the little girl and put her on her shoulders. She asked why everyone was staring at these creatures and not running away. Then after her words, everyone immediately began to run away quickly in one direction. Although they were running quite fast, they still had the strength to do so, but behind them still kept up with that huge tiger. That tiger was very fast, and it took a few moments to pounce on those people. The guy in the guise of a girl noticed some vines in the trees. He decided that this was a good opportunity to escape, at least from this tiger. The white-haired girl immediately ran up to that liana and grabbed onto it. This way she managed to climb up the tree very quickly. Well, as it turned out, she was very fast and jumped high. It was very strange to him. Could he really do that? As soon as she was distracted, a huge monster in the form of a bird attacked behind her. The girl managed to fend it off, and at the same moment she realized that here too to stay dangerous. She was moving very fast on the branches of these trees. It was an incredible speed. Naturally she liked this new ability. She was so fast that even the birds flying in the air couldn't catch up with her. But if this bird can't catch up to someone who is very fast, then a new target must be found. Why the birds rushed to attack the other people they saw in front of them. And yet these people were lucky to be in this company. One of those guys was about to be grabbed by that huge ferocious bird by the hood. The tall blonde guy yelled to the other guy to get down. He did. He managed to duck, and then the blonde guy decided to attack the bird. He grabbed the huge red bird by the leg and threw it on the floor. Then his friend thanked this guy for saving the day. This is the second time we have saved lives today. The blonde-haired guy said that it was nothing and they should get to the village as soon as possible. At the same time, a huge number of horrible monsters were running after them. Tai watched the events unfold. He was here in the guise of a local god. He remembered that a few new people who had come to this world were indifferently standing by. At the same moment he decided to punish them for leaving their comrades in distress. Our hero gave a cool thumbs up and the earth began to fall under their feet. After a few moments, these people immediately fell under the ground and began to fall into the depths. The other guys who saved the little girl from the tree wanted to help them and save others. But it was too late. Now there are only 41 of them left in this world. They have to go back to the village. At the same time, after the village were the locals. They were living their quiet lives. Children playing ball with no suspicion of anything. One of the girls said that they can't go to the village while those things are on their tail, because they will destroy the whole village. One of those people told the girl to calm down, because they are just characters. Their mission is to bring Chin Chin back. It all has to end. The blonde-haired guy said that this is really true, but they can't let innocent people get hurt. They need to protect the village. Those guys were already near the village, and suddenly they stopped. They ordered the girl to quickly go to the village and lock herself in the house. And this problem that's coming at them now, they'll solve it themselves. And so these guys got together as a team and set out to destroy these things. Tai even cried at their dedication. He said he even felt a little bit sorry for them. Then he immediately began to change his appearance to match his status. He changed his appearance to the one the system gave him. Now he asked them to let him put an end to this task. and now the fighting boys have already gathered to defend the village of Shinsho. Some of them were already prepared to die in this fight with huge and terrible beasts. But suddenly they noticed that the clouds above them began to thicken. By the way, the name of this manhwa is Elder of the Village of Newcomer. They didn't understand why it suddenly became so dark. Thunder rumbled and lightning struck. The lightning struck so hard that the earth cracked together. The animals were frightened. It was a spectacular appearance of our hero. He appeared in his new guise right in front of those guys. The blonde-haired guy pointed his finger at our hero. They thought this guy looked pretty familiar. Finally, some of the guys realized it was the guy from that commercial. He came out of nowhere, and immediately started defending these conscientious guys. Our hero, with a perfectly calm face, pointed his hand in the direction of his opponents. He used his mighty power, and a huge sword appeared out of the sky. This sword fell near our hero and broke the ground, causing everyone to see it terribly. Those who came here not so long ago were impressed. Now they closed their eyes from the too bright light. After a few moments they opened their eyes and looked around to see what had happened. What was their surprise when they saw broken trees and dead animals lying on the ground. It was an incredible destructive force. It really impressed everyone. But that wasn't all. Tai used his magic and on the flick of a switch it happened. As it turned out, this sword destroyed everything around, but what was under the shield that Tai had put up seemed to be completely untouched. The guys couldn't stop wondering. They realized that they had been saved by the mighty man. Tai calmly turned around to face them and said that now no predatory monster would come near this place. The Sun Bastion would protect the village. Tai looked at these newcomers with pathos and said that he is not doing this for these outsiders. He is doing it for the good villagers. If they dare to harm the villagers or break the law, they shouldn't blame him for being ruthless. He will completely wipe them off the face of the world. Of course, suddenly one of the girls asked him to wait. She had one question. Tai was about to leave but suddenly stopped. The girl formulated a thought to bring it to our hero. She looked at Tai with her green eyes and asked if he had a girlfriend. The other guys who heard this were surprised at this port of events. Why would she ask that? Tai just stood silently and said nothing. Now there was an awkward pause between. Tai just said one word for how long. The girl watched his eyes appear. Then he put his head down and thought about what he wished he could do. But all of a sudden, Tai quickly moved into the headroom. He began to change his appearance into his natural, normal, and everyday appearance for him. Our hero fell to his knees and thought that he had just ruined everything. Had he really just rejected the feelings of such a cute girl? He grabbed his head and screamed that he wanted such a pretty girl too. Suddenly, the same little girl ran into his room crying and screaming that the head was a scoundrel. At this point, our hero began to suffer from a guilty conscience. He felt as if several knives had been stabbed into his heart. The little girl cried loudly and said that he left her in such a high tree. She was scared to death. Tai put his hand on her head and tried to calm her down. He asked her to apologize and told her that these were the little secrets. Don't let her tell anyone about it, especially the newly arrived siblings. The girl replied that he had hurt Qing Ning, and she was now sad. Tai quickly stuck his hand into his inner pocket and started pulling something out from there. He took out a small teddy bear from there and said that it now belonged to the girl, and apologized once again. The little girl was very surprised. She recognized this teddy bear. It was the same teddy bear she had lost before. Tai said that last time the rascals tore this teddy bear, well, he asked his sister to repair her teddy bear again. Just a little bit, and the task would be done. He asked the girl to help him one more time. After he gave her the teddy bear, she was happy and agreed. At the same time, the new guys were standing under the gate at the entrance to the village. Finally they saw someone approaching them. They were curious to know who it was. It was Tai in his usual appearance. He was walking towards those guys and behind him was that little girl. He asked if these were the people who saved Qing Ning. Tai said the little girl told him everything. The guy in the guise of a girl asked who else was he? Tai introduced himself, and said his name was Tai and he was the head of the village. All the guys started whispering amongst themselves, that head is very young, shouldn't he be a respected old man? After what he heard he immediately said that the head is his father. He is your head. They pissed him off with their discussions. Next time he'll kill them for sure. He decided to get back to business to thank them who the head will let them work in the village and live here. Also Tai will teach them some spells that will help them in their future life. And the boys were happy that they could learn magic. They were eager to know what this spell was. Tai answered that this spell is called intelligence magic. And finally the system congratulated these guys for performing this task. From this day on death, injury, or anything else will not affect their status, but if they are eliminated by the infinite, they will lose the ability to participate in further life in this world. All of them are forbidden to commit acts contrary to the moral law. Tai said that intelligence magic can be applied to everything in this world. It will show name, level, and skill and other useful information. Their level will gradually increase, and in time they will be able to learn more high-quality and high-level magic and techniques. The more they use the skills, the higher their mastery. Since he is the head of the village, they can go to him with any problems and questions, and he will always welcome them. Then he said welcome to Shinsho village. Huan was happy that he was empowered by the god of Nesser. He thought that this was very cool and the power of intelligence was just the right thing. In fact, he got strength almost like ordinary people. Agility was slower than the old telephone internet. Physical strength was about 10. It was impossible to earn a lot of money. Future cabbie. Wisdom at level 9. 9 years of study was not wasted. Spirit was not particularly strong. He was advised to watch less movies and do arm exercises. Charm about 12. He is attractive, friendly, but could become a target for fans. Huang realized that this was some passive-aggressive exploration. The other guys just laughed with this situation. How much pathos was there? They also received a notice that they had to understand something. They needed to be patient and listen to the rules of behavior in the newcomer village from the headman. That way they could enjoy this world faster. Tai said that he was the village chief. He had some medical skills, so if they hurt themselves in the future, they could come to him for help. Although the village is small, they have all the amenities they need, including a hall for his arts, a tavern, an inn, a blacksmith store, and a clothing store. It's also a good place to find work that will earn them good money. They can sleep in the house of a peasant they know or in an inn. But resting outside might cause unnecessary discontent and criticism. Huan asked the old man what they could do in this village. Tai replied that they could, for example, find some work. The blacksmith Alpha is short of a few apprentices, and the butcher Pudge is short of helpers. Hunter Gonder needs people who can destroy monsters, and the father and daughter in the tavern are short of servants. They can also find many places that need help. But if they are thinking of becoming adventurers and they have a little extra money, then let them go to the martial arts. There they will find the mentor Shurgu teaching combat techniques. They can earn money by killing rats, and their meat and skin can be used by Pudge, the butcher. But he also advises them not to leave the village for the time being. The boys were very surprised. He can heal, but if their whole body is torn apart, nothing will help. Another girl said they needed items. How do they use the inventory function? Tai replied that there is no such function. The amount of items they can carry is up to them. Tai had completely forgotten that there was such a function. They thought it was too cruel. The guys decided to find a job first. According to the headman, they should go to bed in places like. But if they don't have money, they might have a problem. They are here to have fun. But since they also have to work, what's the difference from reality? The guys had a lot of questions. Tai said to come up one at a time and he'd answer each one. As it turned out, they were the most stupid questions. Someone was wondering if his father was young, and if in this world if someone gets punched in the nose they will feel pain, and if you can practice with your eyes closed and get experience. Tai of course resented such stupid questions. He didn't understand why are they so retarded. One of those guys with blonde hair asked Qin Ning to take him to the butcher. Immediately she agreed. She was happy to help the new settler in this village. She ran to Uncle Pudge. He looked at her and said that her father had been looking for her for a long time. The blonde-haired boy went to the butcher and asked him to teach him how to cut meat. Finally the father saw his daughter. He was very happy to see her and asked where was she. He quickly ran up to her and hugged his daughter. He was very worried and asked her if she was okay. The little girl started crying and told her daddy everything as it was. She told him that she just couldn't go back. And a few moments after she told her father everything, our hero heard someone shouting his name. The angry father was approaching him, holding a meat cleaver in his hand. Tai thought that Qin Ning shouldn't have told anyone anything yet. Tai turned to the man and asked did he really want to discuss something with him. The angry father turned to Tai and asked him if he knew what he had done. Tai replied that he understands. He understands that his father is on edge, but he needs to wait a minute. He will deal with the problems of the newcomers to the village, and then come to them. He looked at everyone who was looking at this. He said it was the gentleman who wanted to discuss important things with him, so they decided to call it a day, with whom he snapped his fingers and those people just passed out. They just hit the ground like they were forcibly turned off. After they didn't see what happened next, then turned to the man who was very angry. He decided to deal with him. His father thought he was going to have to fight him, but our hero fell to his knees and began to apologize. He crawled on his knees to the man who didn't know what was going on, and then he grabbed his hand and told him that he knew what he had done was wrong, even though he had lent his daughter, but it was for Catherine's development, for he could see how many new workers he had brought in. Then the man exhaled and said that this time he will forget about it. Luckily his daughter is perfectly fine. Tai then told him to always make sure that next time he would be sure to think things through more carefully and not bother him. The men turned around and told the old man that he was glad to hear that. The man then turned around and started to head back to his place back at the tavern. Tai felt very tired. He realized it was time for him to get some sleep. After a while he finally came to his room. He took off his outer clothes and immediately lay down on his cozy bed. Tai and said that he finally came back and turned to Xiao Ai. Our hero began to hug his favorite pillow and said that she must have missed him. He was too tired today at work. It was a very hard day. Then he wondered if he had promised to do something to someone, and then said he would deal with it later. Earth comics are very entertaining. Let's go back to Earth. This is Silicon Valley West District 6. In one of the offices, people were gathered around discussing this new game called Necromancer. People realized that at this stage of technology, a holographic virtual game was impossible. Someone said that its realization would require not only a lot of heavy-duty hardware, but also a lot of high-tech chips that would be 30 or even 50 years ahead of today's chips. At least that's the answer he got when they tried to calculate all the possible ways to create an environment like the one in the Necromancer game on their computers. More importantly, current medical technology like brainwave transmissions or sixth sense research doesn't meet the requirements of total immersion, and holographic virtualization is just a common science fiction assumption. But this VR game looks perfect. Maybe there's at least some way to create something like this. The man with the red tie said that the difference between VR and holographic virtualization is like the difference between heaven and earth. The essence of VR technology is to create a reality that only stimulates the human senses to achieve the desired effect. And holographic virtualization, as shown in the live broadcast, does not affect human feelings. Anna directly transfer consciousness into the virtual world. If this has been achieved, then immortality of human consciousness is already possible. Isn't the future behind holographic virtualization games? But to enter the Necromancer requires the player to wear only a regular virtual reality helmet. How can this be explained? But no one understood how it even worked. Maybe the VR helmet is just a cover. Someone from those men said that he asked the staff to contact Necromancer employees and find those 50 players, but nothing is known yet. Suddenly someone outside the doors said he had figured it all out. Then the head boss said that this man deserves to be the best employee. This year he will give him a double bonus. Just let him tell him about the results of his research. This strange balding man with a red patch on his forehead said that after 48 hours of overtime he had found a solution. This time it would definitely work. They would cut their game video by 15 seconds and then ask for approval and place it on the websites of major video platforms for advertising. But the link will lead to their web version of Necromancer. For only $1.99, the first donation will give them the best equipment in the game for only 5 yuan, and if you donate 10 yuan it will become a game master. In less than a month they will already make a lot of money, and then they will be associated with Necromancer. Everyone looked at the man in bewilderment, then said to take this man out of here, and cover the medical expenses of 500,000 yuan. Said he had another solution. Since they can't imitate this game, it's not just to eliminate it. Now let's go back to the room of the village chief. He was sitting hugging his pillow and reading comic books. Suddenly a system came into his room and approached him. Our hero got scared. He screamed, "Can't the system give him some rest? He needs some privacy. Now he wants to be alone." The system asked as his so-called privacy is reading lustful comics. Tai got embarrassed and asked the system what he needed to do this time. The system replied that nothing much, just need him to go to the airplane where is the system located to help her. It was telling him to put down the greedy people who want to monopolize the market. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this manhwa and want to see a sequel, then be sure to post it in the comments. If I see good activity in the form of comments and likes, then I will make a second part. Also don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell to not miss new videos. And while you are waiting for the new part, you can watch other similar videos on this channel. See you soon.